I'm standing on the USS Hawkbill, the submarine built some 28 years ago to cruise the front lines of the Cold War. Her final mission begins and ends right here in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. And while the ship is based here in the tropical sun, it's actually one of the few that's designed to conquer the frozen north. I'm Leon Harris, and this is CNN Perspectives, a weekly documentary series that takes an in-depth look at a person or an issue in the news. And this week, we go on board the USS Hawkbill under the Arctic ice. Submariners call a trip like this an ice run. And as you're about to see, this is not a mission for the weak of mind or heart. Ride along with the Hawkbill crew on a once-in-a-lifetime adventure. And now, Ice Run, submarine to the Arctic.
Grab the generator.
Move.
Grab the generator.
It doesn't take too long to die up here.
You can't do this stuff and be a wimp.
The submarine USS Hawkbill prepares to leave home port for her final mission. This historic journey will take her crew to the top of the world.
Guys look pretty sharp, pretty formal. Bring your cold weather stuff?
It's an adventure that few people will ever experience. Hawkbill will travel 3,616 miles north from Pearl Harbor to a makeshift camp on the frozen Arctic Ocean. There, she will surface through the ice and take scientists aboard to map the remote Chukchi Sea.
You could never do in the Arctic what we're doing with a submarine on the surface. It can't be done. It's physically impossible.
Navigating these shallow, ice-covered waters is the ultimate in submarining. Commander Bob Perry will guide Hawkbill through its final ice run with the help of ice pilots Randy Ray and Jeff Gossett.
We don't have an enemy that we're going up against, another country, submarines or whatever, but we do have an enemy out here, and the enemy is the ice. And the ice can do as much damage as any torpedo can do.
Then, Hawkbill will be scrapped.
I wish every American could be on this wonderful ship. Every one of our ships is great. Hawkbill is perhaps just about the greatest. So I'm happy. Those are tears of happiness, I want you to know that.
At 292 feet long and 52 feet high at the top of the sail, Hawkbill is about the size of the Statue of Liberty. The top floor is made up of the control room, or con, as well as the captain's quarters and the sonar room. The mess deck, the galley, and the wardroom are on the large middle floor. This is also where most of the crew sleeps. On the bottom, more racks, the laundry, and the torpedo room. On this scientific mission, the torpedo room becomes a laboratory. Scientists work in this tight space. Displaced crew members sleep just beyond blue curtains.
There he is. Crawling out of his cave.
At the bottom of Hawkbill is the backup engine, nicknamed Rusty. Back aft is the nuclear reactor. This provides the fuel for Hawkbill. There's no threat of a power shortage unless, of course, something goes wrong with the reactor.
If something happened to the reactor plant, which hasn't happened yet, but if it did, we find a place to surface.
You gotta surface or you're snorkeling.
Right.
You gotta suck air out of it.
Which could take us up to 3-4 hours, and we have a battery on board that it can last easily that long.
We got about 4 hours to find a place to surface through the ice. Maybe. With the battery. We would shut everything down and hope and pray.
All I need's a piece of ice that's basically 100 yards long to put the ship in.
There's no way we can do this underneath the ice.
And once we come up, then we can get the air, and we can actually run our diesel engine, which will provide power for months on end.
If not, I don't know what we do.
What submariners usually do when something goes wrong is fix it themselves. That job falls to the auxiliary division.
I'm Chief Calden. Today we're going to go over craftsman training.
Chief Petty Officer Richard Calden heads up the Auxiliary Division, nicknamed the A-Gang.
Yeah, we would go through a 2-kilo 3M coordinator route and go through squad, and eventually an outside activity would come. But what about if ship's force is going to do maintenance?
Chief Calden, he is an outstanding auxiliary member. The guy can fix anything. He's absolutely amazing.
Have you met this guy? Probably the best A-ganger we got on board.
And he's a great leader, too. He leads his division of 12 men. They will follow him through fire if they had to.
Cut! Charlie ride the other day.
Gary Levy is also a Chief Petty Officer, but he has a special designation, Chief of the Boat, or Cobb.
What day is tomorrow? Oh, Cobb's best day.
As Cobb, Levy is the man the captain turns to when he needs to know how the crew is holding up.
The Cobb's great.
I think it's heavy after a while.
Yeah, it gets heavy after a while. What else did you learn?
You can come down when somebody makes a mistake really harsh. He doesn't. He's like, okay, we learn anything? You know, that was a bit embarrassing, but you're not going to do that again, right?
So you're not going to do this again. That's the first thing I want to make sure you understand. I've got my surrogate family here. I've got a whole submarine full of sailors that are my sons, and my family is sitting back home.
Like many of the men on board, Wesley Buckner is young, just 20 years old.
I'm just straight slow poking right now.
Buckner is a plainsman. He drives the submarine.
I got plenty of skills to pay the bills.
Most of the driving is done by the youngest sailors.
We sit behind them and say, boys, we're in your hands.
Yeah, we trim the ship, but how do we trim it? By what they tell us.
We trim it by what they're showing us and by what they're telling us.
As Hawkbill sails north from Hawaii, the crew looks forward to visiting the North Pole and becoming part of the history of Arctic exploration.
But the next thing you know, it's going to be chilly.
Yes, sir.
We're in an area right now that's basically uncharted. I mean, the charts I'm using right now are blank.
A frozen ocean, the Arctic Basin is one of the only places on Earth where it is possible to walk on water.
You are only prepared for where you may have to fight if you understand the environment. This environment is really on the margin. It doesn't take too long to die up here.
The Arctic was largely unknown to Americans until the U.S. Navy went where explorers like Admiral Byrd and Commander Perry could not, under the ice. The first American submarine to penetrate the Arctic ice was the USS Nautilus in 1931, a rehabilitated diesel sub from World War I. This Nautilus was unable to operate under the ice for long. Diesel subs require frequent surfacings to charge batteries and expel bad air. Nuclear power made it possible to live under ice for months at a time. In 1958, another Nautilus, this one fueled by a nuclear reactor, became the first submarine to travel under the North Pole. It was the height of the Cold War. The Arctic soon became a significant battleground for submarines.
The best defense against another submarine is a submarine, so we can watch out what they're doing, learn what they're doing. The Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans all have capable submarine forces.
Today, understanding the Arctic provides more than a military advantage. Scientists are using subs like Hawkbill to explore ways to keep nuclear weapons left over from the Cold War from affecting future generations.
We've got a real sharp trace at
the massive amount of not just radionuclides but other industrial waste frozen in the permafrost that were that to warm up, it would wash down the Russian rivers and dump into the Arctic Ocean. Once it's in the Arctic Ocean, where is it going to go?
Next, what is it like to live on a nuclear submarine?
Do not sit in this chair. This is the captain's chair.
Navigate the most dangerous ice-covered waters in the world with the crew of Hawkbill when CNN Perspective's Ice Run continues.
Oh, you can't handle the man going.
now return to CNN Perspectives.
The nuclear submarine USS Hawkbill sails north from Pearl Harbor, Hawaii to the Arctic Basin on a scientific mission. Within days, the crew will take the 28-year-old sub up through the ice at the top of the world.
I'm tired.
Chief Petty Officer Richard Calden wakes up at 6 p.m.
We got his underwear. You ready?
What cable?
He says, what cable, he says.
He works the mid-watch or overnight shift on board the USS Hawkbill as she makes her final journey.
It's very, very easy to lose track of what day it is. It's extremely easy to lose track of whether it's day or night. 72 degrees and fluorescent every day. Our day when we're underway on board a submarine is actually 18 hours long. So you stand 6 hours of watch and then you'll do 4 or 5 hours of maintenance or work or whatever, and then the next 6-hour block of time is for your rest and sleep, however you want to spend it, and then you're back on watch again.
Watch your foot on these cans. The racks are with a guy, that's his personal area. We don't really bother the guy when they're in the rack if we can help it.
Extra warm clothes since we're up here in the north. And under here, this is all my civilian clothes for my Liberty port. So we don't have a closet.
You can't turn over, as you can see.
You get the decorated any way you want?
Yeah, I usually put my pictures of my family on it. And it's my new boy. He's only 3 days old when I left.
We don't have enough room. We have to stand on all of our food, or we'll run out too early in the deployment. This is all maple syrup. Actually, pancake and waffle syrup.
For breakfast, fresh eggs, we'll store them in the torpedo tubes. Waters are cold, so they'll stay fresher for a long time.
Uh-oh. How long?
He can actually eat in the dark because the sparks that fly off his utensils provide their own light.
There are 2 places for meals on the submarine.
Beef stew, rice, green beans, and a biscuit.
Mess deck for enlisted men, and the wardroom for the captain and the officers.
Do not sit in this chair. This is a captain's chair. Do not ever sit in that chair because you'll be in deep trouble.
Before breakfast, lunch, dinner, and midnight rations, or mid-rats, a line forms in the passageway outside the mess deck.
We cook 4 meals a day on the Hawkbill.
You guys got 2 kinds of gravy?
Usual preparation time takes basically 5 to 6 hours per meal. I love cooking.
You got to make sure the meal is good enough for you, because if it's not good enough for yourself, then it's not good enough for the crew. I cook the hot rolls, big fluffy ones.
Is your gravy done yet, or? Huh?
Yeah, with gravy.
The crew must meet weight and fitness requirements even after months at sea. Finding room to exercise is sometimes harder than the actual workout.
We figure 80 calories an hour in the rack. That's 800 calories a day for us, at least. The all-you-can-sleep diet. We're gonna make a book about this, the all-you-can-sleep diet.
Yeah.
We're doing research right here.
Blowing sands takes about 90 minutes once or twice each day.
The tank that the waste is going to is pressurized. And if you were to, in a very sleepy state, walk into the head and grab a hold of that ball valve and open it at that time, that tank will very rapidly vent right at you. And it's not pretty.
All right, blowing sands?
Yeah, they're blowing sands right now.
This is terrible.
Hey, don't worry, go on.
Go on, it's okay, just open the flapper.
Lines form for showers before every watch section.
The showers, it's mostly just a wait in line. Got 2 showers for 100 people.
There is only 1 washer and dryer for the whole crew.
I didn't get a chance to wash my poop suits before we left. Maybe I had.
If that equipment goes down, it will be a long, dirty 3 months. There are video games all day and movies every night. And always cards. Cribbage is the submariner's card game of choice.
Only the strong survive, and only the gutsy hang in there. Some people have it, some people don't.
As Hawkbill heads under the ice at the Bering Strait, everyone and everything must be in top condition, especially the sonar. It looks like a video game, but the PFLU, or Pulse Forward Look Upgrade, is a sophisticated piece of sonar equipment. Without it, Hawkbill might not make it through the Bering Strait.
The Bering Strait transit, probably the most hazardous, the most challenging ship handling experience a submariner can do.
Here's how the PFLU works.
Red is the most intense target, then yellow, green, and blue. Okay, so we're seeing the ice in front of us right now. What we have here is a big, big ridge coming in. We are cruising right now approximately 25 feet off the bottom of the ocean. And this big ice keel is approaching us. And now we're having to make a decision, looking at with this cursor here, trying to find a hole.
It's actually very alarming. Coming through the straits, we had 20 feet below us most of the way, sometimes only 15 feet above us before there was ice.
So you can see this ice keel is marching in, and it's a big one. Now we're putting the rudder over because we gotta say, okay, we need to turn faster, okay? So we put the rudder over to left full, and you can see the ice keel moving off to the right.
You have to turn this way and that way and figure this out and follow this ridge and get past that, and sometimes it was a mess.
If one guy hiccuped or sneezed and pushed when he was supposed to pull, we would have smacked the bottom or smacked the ice. We basically hugged as close to the bottom as my guts could allow.
I've done submarine operations where you perhaps for 1 hour or maybe even 3 or 4 hours were doing something that really had you, nervous while you were doing it. This was a week of operating a 5,000-ton submarine within 20-25 feet of the bottom of the ocean. The guys back aft are turning the screw plus or minus 1 revolution per minute to maintain speed exactly constant, keeping the angle of the ship plus or minus 1/8 of a degree, and passing within 17 feet of ice overhead.
What does it take to be a submariner?
You can't do this stuff and be a wimp.
And life at 30 below when Ice Run continues.
We now return to CNN Perspectives.
The submarine USS Hawkbill is getting closer to its destination at the top of the world.
Nice turquoise green.
Commander Bob Perry and his crew breathe a sigh of relief after making it through the hazardous Bering Strait. Soon, Hawkbill will do what few other subs have ever done, surface through the Arctic ice.
A guy that's got those dolphins on his chest, qualified submariner, knows that he's part of that team. That's what I want him to feel.
New officers and enlisted men must qualify for their dolphins, the official insignia of a submariner.
I see you have a Chuck Talley stuff.
As an inspiration to all the guys when they came on board, when anybody new kid comes on board, new officer, I always put his dolphins up there with his name on it. So when he gets qualified, he can come in here and take them off. And I always look at those things. So I say, hey, there's your dolphins already. And they're always going to be there until you get qualified.
If I open up one, where's water going to go?
Training and drills are run daily, even during an ice run.
Right now, Adam's a jam up jelly type on his AV walkthrough.
Chief of the boat, Gary Levy, gives Petty Officer Brian Adams the emergency breathing test.
Number one, you're going to be able to prove to yourself that you can make it from one end of the ship to the other without visual reference. Wearing an EAB.
What's the matter? What's the matter?
The EAB is the emergency air breathing system.
Open the valve.
There you go.
There's the nearest fire hose connection to where we're standing right now. Which hose would you send to this fire right here? Okay, machinery 2 up below. That'd be a good choice.
Stay out of the way.
We're looking at galley, see if there's a fire in a galley. Deep fat fire's on fire. How do you secure power to it? All right, you can take that off. Good job. Very good. It's not the easiest thing to do, walk around looking through a black and white screen like that, is it?
No.
You can't do this stuff and be a wimp.
You did it for all the homies out in the Arctic.
And the cop says, word.
Word.
They're going through a different boot camp than what I went through many years ago. Okay, there's some differences. They got a few more tattoos. They may have a few more body parts pierced here or there. But let me tell you what hasn't changed. They want someone to tell them what needs to be done. They want someone to tell them why that job is important. They want someone to give them the standards, and they want someone to sit back and watch them do it. He did well.
Request permission to break river dive on the lower bridge hatch and retrieve the floating water.
Break river dive, retrieve the floating water.
Break river dive, retrieve the floating water, aye.
In the morning, the submarine will surface near a temporary camp on the frozen Arctic Ocean to pick up the chief scientist for this mission.
I would love a black and better.
As Hawkbill sails toward Atlas Ice Camp, Dr. Edwards takes off from Barrow, Alaska.
Remember the buddy system. You don't go out camp strong and take a leisure walk around unless you're with someone, because they have shotguns out there for the bears and everything else. Polar bear out there, you're out there, your lunch.
Dr. Margot Edwards will live aboard Hawkbill for 2 weeks, mapping the ocean floor.
Questions?
You know, you look at a globe and you see there's the Arctic Basin, and you know, well, we know there's an Arctic Basin, but we really don't know hardly anything about what's happened up here.
ET phone home type business.
For everyone heading to Ice Camp, this is the adventure of a lifetime.
When I signed up for this, I thought, wow, what a great adventure this is going to be, and I never considered that it might be a little bit scary.
For 3 weeks, Atlas Ice Camp will be the northernmost American settlement on Earth. Only the constant hum of power generators and the roar of snowmobiles break the frosty silence. About 1 mile from Atlas is a flat sheet of ice codenamed Marvin Gardens. This is where Hawkbill will surface.
How long do you think it will take for them to come up through the ice?
Once they make preparations, they have to get stationary, make sure that they're with the current and that they aren't drifting to one side or the other. You know, blowing the tanks enough to get the ascent rate sufficient to impact the ice, break through. It really comes up very quickly.
If this is over a foot thick, I'll be very surprised.
Now, how far was it?
About 14 inches?
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's just absolutely perfect. What that means is that when they come up, they won't bust the ice all up and get water alongside the hull or send a fracture all the way through the thing.
The exact location of Ice Camp is always changing. Sheets of ice can move up to 10 miles each day.
You hear the ice, Dan? Listen.
Oh yeah. It's moving. It is definitely moving.
In 24 hours, 2 incidents with people going through the ice, one of whom was walking right next to me.
Everyone got out of the water quickly, and no one was injured.
I was thinking, man, I hope nobody goes in the water. Of course, we were wrong on that, but as we say in the submarine surface, we want to make the number of surfacings equal the number of dives. In this case, we did.
With temperatures around 30 below, 6,000 calories a day are required just to maintain body weight.
Spaghetti meatballs, Caesar salad. I had the lettuce somewhere, cooling, in the refrigerated cooler. It's a little warm right at the moment.
Who's the guy that flew? Bird? Something started leaking and he turned around and went back and said, we were there.
Next, the submarine crashes through the ice.
This is what the submarine sees when they're passing underneath.
CNN Perspective's Ice Run continues.
We now return to CNN Perspectives.
Chief of the boat, Gary Levy, readies the submarine, USS Hawkbill, for surfacing through the Arctic ice. The crew looks forward to getting out of the sub for the first time in weeks. At the same time, a group of scientists wait in a makeshift camp on the frozen ocean to meet the submarine.
Lower some of the experiments, communication systems with the submarine.
Just before dawn, Captain Jeff Fishbeck and his team head out to the surfacing area, codenamed Marvin Gardens.
Roger. For your information, the surfaceable feature, the lead that's formed about 5 feet. We're trying to bridge it right now with a sled.
I understand about a 5-foot lead. I'll make sure Fred knows about it. Fred?
Hey Fred, they've the lead. I heard that. You've got a radio? I've got no. Yeah, I got one. Okay.
Ready for the strobe.
A mile from camp, preparations begin for the arrival of Hawkbill. As the sub prepares to surface, Dr. Edwards and others head out to Marvin Gardens.
You can tell that I'm really smiling, really smiling. It's rough, but I'll go slow, but it's pretty rough. That's the backrest, so I'll take it slow, but you'll get balanced. You don't dawdle, you just keep walking. Oh, you're fine.
Put a strobe, a light strobe in the water, and a homing beacon. They have currently homed in on the beacon.
Marvin Gardens, this is Hawkbill. Just pass under X and ice and observe strobe. Over.
Yeah! Bearing 135, range 400 yards. Well, what you got? 2.0 knots.
What they'll do now is a standard Navy maneuver, typically a Williamson, where they run out, come 60 degrees off course, throw their rudder over and come around. That way they can come right back down their track.
You're doing exactly right. Well, what you got?
They're in their final approach to that X. They're doing about half a knot, and that's a pretty tricky ship handling maneuver.
127 feet.
This is the first time most of these guys have been through ice, been on watch. We had trained for this. We had done this a number of times in open ocean, simulating the ice was overhead.
Don't do anything till I tell you.
Here's the X. I got it. 1.0.
1.0 by law.
I'll stop how Mike.
We found the place in the ice where they wanted us to come up, and we basically parked the ship right underneath there. We hovered, we get everything ready to go, and then we just blew off a little water to make ourselves lighter and floated up at about 30 feet per minute.
Start the upper, how Mike? Got about it. I'll say that number 3, 180, the upper is running.
Back to depth control. I bubble now, down 0.5, coming up.
Over.
Everyone ready? Ready to run?
Yep. 3 seconds forward. 3 seconds forward. Go 200. 3 seconds 200 left.
Bubbles coming up.
Vertical surface. Vertical surface. Vertical surface.
Give me another 2 seconds forward. 2 seconds forward.
Boat's getting in. Full blow eye. Separator is picking up.
Sheet cutter on the forward group. The forward group. 2 second half time.
Everybody kind of looked around each other, and we all cheered.
Good job, guys. Very good.
You guys were awesome.
Because it's kind of a neat thing to do.
Wow. God, I'm emotional.
You hit the ice and this submarine shakes a little bit, so you think it's a little scary, but it's really exciting.
The hatch is 14 feet behind the sail. The hard work of digging through 2 feet of ice begins.
Everybody's tickled pink to be here. The last week has gone by like that. We turned around, we were under ice, and it was like, I don't know, woke up this morning, we were finally out of the straits. You know,
Just this morning?
Well, I mean, yesterday. I mean, it seems like it took me that long to come down from it.
You got the heat on in there? Oh, we got the heat on here. Don't worry. It's nice, balmy 72.
Leaning right up against the captain's bunk.
I think we're close, Tom.
And we walk in the door, left hand.
Okay, we're opening it up right now.
All right, give me a hatch ring.
Welcome. How y'all doing? I'm the captain.
Good job. Good landing.
Thanks.
The crew emerges for their first fresh air and sunlight in 2.5 weeks.
There's a long transit up here.
Oh, he's got the duck one?
Welcome to Ice Camp Atlas.
Thank you, sir.
Is there a smoke in here?
Hey, where's the smoke pit? Way over there.
It's the abominable snowman.
Hey, wait a minute, what is it? Two-hand touch, tackle, what
Two-hand touch. Capitalistic. Two-hand touch. Let's go!
Finally, the last passenger, or rider in submarine lingo, arrives at the camp. He's the boss, Admiral Al Konechny.
He's come on here on board and really is a is a spark plug of inspiration.
Hey Jeff, how are you, buddy? Some back. Hey, listen, get out of here. Tell you the skivvies are expensive up there.
He is what I consider the epitome of a true leader. He gets out there and meets the men, talks to them, and really is concerned about the welfare of the sailor.
3 pairs of underwear for $99. I'm gonna probably wash those the rest of my life.
Another big focus effort he has is to tell the world that, hey, we need submarines, and we don't need fewer submarines, we need more submarines.
Heavenly. I tell lots of people that, geez, looking at what the future may bring with more rogue nations, more rogues, it just seems to me that it's more and more important for us to have a force that will allow us to have true freedom of the seas and to allow us, even in peacetime, to be able to take on a potential adversary if we have to.
After only 6 hours of fresh air and sunshine, it's back to work. Now, with the Admiral and Dr. Edwards on board, Hawkbill is again under the ice. Next,
move. Push it, grab the generator, grab the generator.
The crew gets dangerously close to the bottom of the world's coldest ocean.
Uncharted.
CNN Perspective's ice run continues.
We now return to CNN Perspectives.
After surfacing through the Arctic ice,
You guys were awesome.
Commander Bob Perry and his crew are again underway on the USS Hawkbill, a nuclear-powered submarine.
Here's the plan, guys. Listen up. We'll go down to 180 feet, trim out 1/3 bell, hover again, and then put the locking ring back on.
As Hawkbill sails below the ice, Dr. Margot Edwards leads the team of scientists working in the torpedo room. With a woman on board, there are some accommodations to be made. With so many distractions, scientists, cameras, and an outspoken admiral on board, the dangers of the Arctic are almost forgotten.
Chicken noodle soup, I make it myself. You wanna try some?
Anytime you take a ship to sea, there's danger. Okay? And you gotta remember what we're on here. It's 292 foot long, of a maze of systems put together, operated by 130 guys whose average age is 27 years old.
Oh, this guy's crazy.
With about 1,100, 1,050 fathoms beneath the keel. And then you look away for maybe 5 or 10 minutes and you look up and there's 180 fathoms. It's like you're just driving over this brick wall that's coming up at an angle.
Suddenly, the warning comes out, red sounding.
Push it, grab the generator, grab the generator.
Move.
I'm going to control.
Red sounding is a danger signal saying you need to do something now or you're going to run aground.
This could be any number of things, including a uncharted, what we call a seamount.
The bottom came up quickly on us, so we had to come up quickly in reverse course.
This red sounding turned out to be a false alarm. The Hawkbill sonar misinterpreted signals from the scientist equipment.
You got to trust your instruments. You just can't say, well, they're wrong. No, that's how you get in trouble.
Inside, I took about 2 years off my life.
Quartermaster Tommy Erickson alerted everyone to the possible danger.
I threw it out straight swell. I just walked over. I was like, Officer Dick, I think we should go shallow because it's getting real shallow underneath right now. I was real calm about it, but I was scared of shit.
It's really gutsy, and it says an awful lot about a crew. When a young guy sees an indicator that says this is not good, he jumps right on it. This is given to you, my friend, from all your shipmates here. Myself included.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Commence field day. All torpedo room bunkers, muster in the torpedo room with the chief of the boat.
That man is always punctual.
Every Friday is field day. Time to deep clean the submarine.
Basically put the last spit polish on everything we got. Carry on.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah, baby.
Carry on, smooth out, fluff.
This field day, the crew prepares for another surfacing near the ice camp. Hawkbill will embark high-ranking Navy command and a senator for an overnight trip.
Just positive attitudes, 15 hours of standing on our heads. We can do anything.
We're cleaning up for Senator Rob, who's going to sleep in my bunk.
Anybody from Virginia
You better take down the pictures of my kid, I think.
should be ready to talk to Senator Rob, right, Henderson?
Because the nature of submarine work is often top secret, it can be easy to overlook the service they provide. Out of sight, out of mind.
Our submarines can go out ahead of the battle groups and gather intelligence. They can launch weapons. They can put weapons on target on time with pinpoint accuracy. They can guard battle groups against the bad guy.
It is hoped that after spending a night under the ice aboard Hawkbill, the DVs, or distinguished visitors, will take a positive message back to Washington.
Today, other than our own submarines, there are 268 other submarines. We'll have no more than 24 submarines here in the Pacific Fleet, U.S. submarines, in the year 2003.
If we do not have a strong submarine force and our naval battle group are called into action, it's going to be like sending somebody with a knife into a gunfight.
Perfect course. Good job. There's the X. All right, this is exactly the course we want right here.
After a successful tour with the distinguished visitors and a trip to the North Pole, the long journey home. The first Liberty port in England. The submarine's first underway in the Atlantic Ocean. A brief stay in Fort Lauderdale where the Cobb spends time with his family.
The homecomings make every bit of it worthwhile.
Through the Panama Canal. And then, 3 months after the Arctic ice, home to Hawaii. Next for the Hawkbill, decommissioning. The nuclear reactor is removed, and the rest of the sub is cut up for scrap.
There's several people on this ship that are going to be affected by it more than others. Master Chief Cryle has been on here for 10 years. Chief Calden's been on Hawkbill for 9 years.
Rich would probably like to take his rack with him because he spends so much time in it.
I'd like to get the diving line.
So that can get all stop.
I don't know. I don't know if we have to turn it in or anything, but I'd like that.
This is a 28-year-old submarine, and we're laying her down. So naturally, there's an emotional tug at your heart for doing that.
About a year from now, we'll be closing the door, so to speak, and walking away and letting the shipyard cut up our baby.
I'm Jessica and my dad's on the Hawkbill and I was waiting to see him.
Woke up at 6. Couldn't get back to sleep. The cups are not working, so it is like Christmas. Did I say that out loud? Oh my god. This place
My dad is a dog son.
Oh, but you're coming right. Get out of here. Get over there. Get in there.
Eight submariners earned their dolphins on this trip, and many of the other sailors qualified at their watch stations as well. So many of them, in fact, the Cobb says it was a record for his career. Well, now the Hawkbill has been inactivated, and it's set to be turned into 5,000 tons of scrap metal next year. But a piece of her will live on in everyone who's ever served on this boat. I'm Leon Harris. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on CNN Perspectives.
Put that on a resume.
Suave, Rico Suave.
Just a little maneuver that goes with it. It's like you can't handle. Call someone scrub. It's like someone that doesn't get very much love. No. You will respect my authority.
Explore the key issues of our time with CNN Perspectives on video. Call 1-800-201-8844 to order this week's segment and bring home television's most thought-provoking program on this century. That's 1-800-201-8844. Call now.